Alright teams, in this lesson we're going to go through the process of using Canva as our platform for actually creating the style guide that we're going to be using for your businesses. So if you haven't already, make sure that you sign up and create a free account on Canva. And I'm just imagining that most of you already have one, so this really shouldn't be an issue. What we're going to be searching for is brand guideline presentation, guidelines plural. So let me go ahead and copy that. And then let me log in. And I'll take a look later. Okay. So from here, we want to go ahead and do our search. Our search takes us right to the place where we're going to find presentations. So I'll click. And the option that we want to choose in this class is the Zenith group. This is one that I think is great for us to all start with because it contains a lot of the elements that we're going to be using when it comes to working with type, working with colors, working with fonts and images. A lot of the main elements that we're going to need are going to be in this template or theme. So we're going to use this to start with. Now, once your businesses have come together and all the members of your team have decided that you want to come up with a different new look for your style guide, feel free to do so. This will actually give us the ability to move a little bit quicker, a little bit faster through the process. So I'll go ahead and I'll like this one first of all, and then I'll click it. Now this will give us all of the pages that we're going to need for our style guide. So our brand style guide, there are a few things that we know we want to focus on, and there are some extra pages here, and the extra pages may come along or come in handy when your teams are ready to move forward with additional ways to describe how your business's brand should be represented online and offline. So we can see that we have some tooltips here. Most of this you may already know, so to edit an element, click on it, and a toolbar will appear above. Cool. Present in full screen. Cool. If we wanted to do any presenting from Canva. Got it. All right. So we got those out of the way. So this is the point where you want to gather all of the elements that we've been using in this class so far. So this means stock photos, images, fonts, colors, and just kind of have those assets ready to go. So you can either copy and paste from them and bring them into this template or theme, or so that you know what hex colors, for example, you're going to be using in order to add those to your style guide. Now, when we're all done with the project, in order to submit your project into Canvas, Share is one of those options. And you can copy the link and you'll submit that link into Canvas to submit your assignment. You can also download, and let's see what options we have here under a free account. Excellent. This is exactly how we want you to submit your project, as a PDF document. So a portable document format. That's exactly what's needed. Perfect. JPEG is another option, and there's nothing wrong with actually doing a JPEG. With the free version, we can't adjust the quality or anything like that. So obviously when we download the PDF version, we want to download a free watermarked draft in the beginning. Perfect. And that is completely acceptable. So here are some of the pages that we want to start with. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and keep this initial first page where you'll simply go in and edit this to be your company's business. It is a good recommendation to replace these two items here with your business's logo. If your business has a tagline, to add the tagline, and then of course, Brand Guideline 2020. And this is a little small, so you could actually make this font bigger. So Brand Guidelines. It already has the title, it's already ready to go. A table of contents would be good. This isn't critically necessary for what we're doing in class, so we'll skip this one for now. This one we'll go ahead and skip as well. This is a really good image that you could use, and I'll really say that you could use either this slide, page 2, or page 3, depending on how you want to represent or use a stock photo image or a photo image of your team. But really we want to move to slide 3. And this is where we're going to write our brand story. So your brief history really is just going to be your brand story that you're going to tell here. And even if you need to move some of this around in order to tell a little bit more on your brand story, feel free to do so. Or we can really keep it brief. In our version, we really won't need the professional slide here, so we won't need this slide at all. So slide 5 won't be necessary for us. Slide 6, not really necessary, but if your team is wanting to go ahead and describe what your business type is like, professional, approachable, dependable, when we started talking about those business personality traits, this is a great place to list those business personality traits. So that way, anyone who's handling your marketing or promotion, they know exactly what your business's brand voice is. This would be a great place for us to do our brand voice. And here we're talking about logo variations. So on this page, this is one we definitely want. We want to go ahead and capture our logo variations. And keeping in mind that sometimes you may have a logo, if we look here, the Zenith Group logo has the brand image off to the left and the brand or logo type off to the right. So this is one version of the logo, or one variation, where the logo is stacked side by side. Here we can see that they have the main logo. And the main logo, how is it normally seen most of the time? In this case, it's vertically stacked. Secondary logo. So the secondary logo will generally be the logo type or the font that you use for your logo brand. And then you could use the third version. So usually primary, secondary, and tertiary. So you actually have the third version, which is going to be the logo graphic and how that logo graphic is presented. So there may be 3 types, maybe more. In some cases, you may end up making this a 2-page deal. So where you're talking about how the logo is stacked vertically, maybe horizontally, maybe the logo type. And then on a second page, you may want to represent, this is how our logo looks on social media. And then there may be 2 other blank options that you can add to later in the future. So we'll circle back around to making this represent our business in 1 or 2 pages. To describe your logo, the different fonts that are used, and the logo elements, this is a page that we want to keep as well, where we start talking about the main logo elements, which are going to be the logo graphic and the logo type and how it's represented. And we looked at some examples of this in our last lesson, where we looked at logo brand style guide examples, where we saw that spacing was applied around the logo so that whoever's handling your marketing and design and printing knows that there's this zone where nothing else should compromise or come into this zone. So in other words, our type here should never move into this zone. This zone has a certain amount of space that goes around the logo where nothing should interfere with it at all. The closest we can get is this right here when it comes to understanding the zone that goes around our logo graphic. So this is a really good page for us to keep so that we can really talk about the different main logo elements of our logo. Here's where we'll also talk about the rules, and this page looks really good. So the proper logo usage, ways that it should be used and ways that it should not be used. So this is really great, showing ways that the logo should be laid out when working with the horizontal stacked version of our logo. So this talks about logo placement. So this is a really great example of, we're going to actually modify this page so that this page actually contains stock photos, maybe 3 stock photos, and this is a really good one. So if we had a square, horizontal, and vertical photo, how would the logo properly be placed on top of photographic images? Making sure that people know not to place the logo in the center of a photo. Maybe it should always be in the bottom left or bottom right, for example. And this is just an example of logo placement here, showing us, for example, if we wanted to make sure that the logo is placed in the top left, top right, center, bottom left, bottom right. So we know that we pretty much always want our logo to be placed in the bottom left corner. So these elements would not be necessary for us. So we would get rid of these so that we can show our logo really should always only be placed in the bottom left corner. And we would do the same thing here and the same thing here. The vertical version is a little bit different, where this example shows anytime we're working with a vertical photo to place that photo in the center, but we know we pretty much want ours to always be in the bottom left corner. And again, these rules are really going to be applied to your businesses. So you don't have to follow any of these rules. Maybe your placement is in the bottom right corner, and maybe your logo should always be white instead of in full color, so that it's easier to see the logo branding along with the photographic image. So this slide 10 is a slide that we definitely want to keep. You're just going to have to do a little bit of searching for stock photos that really represent the emotion and mood of your business or your brand. Finding images if your business is really about happiness. Does it set the mood of sadness? Does it set the mood of hunger? Does it set the mood for food? Playfulness? Finding those stock photos to place here as examples. And of course, we will use type. Type may be a little bit of a challenge for us to work with this inside of Canva when we're doing a search to actually do examples of a lightweight going to slightly heavier weight versions of our font. When we actually try to pick those font styles inside of Canva, those font styles may not be here, especially since we're using Google Fonts to power our fonts. Normally we would do a layout like this inside of a completely different tool. We would be using professional tools like Adobe Illustrator, for example, to lay out our branding guideline. But this school year, we may not have a lot of time to go into all the different tools that we can use and spend the same amount of time that we normally would. Also, we would also normally lay this out potentially inside of Google Slides. But since the template is already here for us to work from, we're just going to start here. And if we do run into any complications or anything like that, we may use some strategies where we're actually typing our fonts inside of a Google slide and then copying that layout over here into Canva. but this will definitely break down the different types of fonts that you're going to use in your business. So our main font, yes, we will need this slide. This will be the main font that you're using typically for headings. Alternate fonts. So the alternate fonts in this case, it says subheadings. It says subheaders here, but we always want to think web and headings. So we have our main heading, which is a bolder font. Slide 12 is a alternative for subheadings. And then we have slide 13, which can really start to break down how the fonts are supposed to be used together. So what does this look like when we see our headings and subheading fonts used together? And what does it look like when we see our headings and subheadings and paragraph fonts all together on the same page? What is that supposed to look like? So this is a great example of slide 13 that we're going to modify as well. Font hierarchy. So here's where we just break down at a glance the name of the business in different font styles. Mostly the headings, so we may look at heading, subheading, paragraph. So we can see what the font hierarchy looks like for our font families. We'll definitely want to keep slide 14 as well, because it just shows everything on one page, as opposed to slide 11, 12, and 13 kind of show them individually, and this shows them all together. We're probably gonna skip this one. We do want to talk about corporate colors or your business colors, and this is exactly what we want. This is perfect. It actually shows the hex color, CMYK, RGB, but there is no Pantone color here. Really, slide 15 or slide 16 we'll definitely use. We may end up, either one really does work. It really just depends on whether you would like a background color here or whether you want to leave the page white so that your colors actually pop and stand out. It'll be easy for you to click on the background color, click on the color in the top left corner, and actually apply the hex color here. So once you have the hex color, it'll be really easy for you to update all of this to represent your brand's colors really easily. Now, the way this is generally set up, this is going to be our main corporate colors. So the primary colors that we're going to use all the time. And then every now and then we may have some secondary colors that we kind of use in different ads, advertising to really make things pop. We could end up having a second page that shows our secondary colors here, simply because I know that some of you have more than 3 main colors. So you could have slide 16 actually be 2 slides long, showing the first 3 colors, and then maybe the first 3 colors, and then maybe the 4th or 5th color on the second slide. I think the choice is really up to you and your team, but I would say that we should start with this one so that way our colors really pop and stand out. Where we talk about our main colors and our secondary colors right here on this page. Nothing wrong with this layout at all. If your team wants to do this, go for it. We can see here that one of our this example main colors, blue here, is actually the exact same color as the background. So they had to outline it in a white frame to be able to tell what that color looks like, so it wouldn't just look really odd without that frame there, and it wouldn't look uniformed with the black and white color here. So we'll circle back around to that. Here, when we start talking about proper imagery, this would really just be a collection of 2, 3, or 4 stock photos that represent the type of imagery that represents your business when you're looking for photos. So this could be either photos that you've taken that shows your product, or this can be stock photos that will be used that kind of really represent your images. And a lot of times these photos may not necessarily be of your product or services, but these may be photos that really represent and fit the mood of your company or business. So sometimes it may be the high school, photos of the high school, photos of the city of Fresno, photos of just kind of happy, wonderful things, photos of fabric or fashion, things like that. So maybe it's a really close-up view of denim, or the yarned sweater print, really close-up images of food and those type of things. So the imagery can really just represent the mood and the feel for your business. So this is a slide to definitely keep, slide 17. I think we'll come back to this one later. I don't think any of our businesses will necessarily have patterns or backgrounds that you're going to use. I think Delavan is one of the few companies that in Canva, they're already using a very specific sort of background that they use in all of their social media. So some of your businesses may actually need this. Most of you may not. And then you can show 1, 2, 3 examples of different background patterns that you use, either like in your Google pitch decks, your slideshows, your social media, patterned backgrounds that you use quite often. This would be a great slide to use to represent your patterned backgrounds. And then anywhere we have paragraph type, this is where you describe how the font is going to be used, images are going to be used, or background patterns or colors are going to be used in your brand. So we'll definitely want to keep slide 18 if your business does currently have sort of like a background that you use kind of consistently in your pitch decks and on your social media. This would be the place to do it. We'll probably circle back around to this slide, but this is one to potentially keep. And this really shows how your brand is represented in the digital space, social media. What does your brand or logo look like on a mobile website? And we could even replace this phone image with an image of a tablet or a laptop to show exactly what your brand should look like on different devices. So we're probably not going to need anything here when it comes to gear or branding. Some of your teams, Delavan, for example, does have apparel, so we could actually replace this with an image of what your designs should look like on apparel, for example. So this may be very, very limited on the teams that are actually going to use this as part of their brand. Business cards. This one's optional. I could see this actually being a thing. So this is not mandatory to have slide number 21, but something to think about and consider. And this would clearly be the back of a business card. So in your layout, you're probably gonna show what the back of your business cards are gonna look like. Maybe you have 2 different versions. You may wanna make a duplicate of this slide so that you actually show the front of your business cards as well. So what does the front and back look like? And then last, definitely being able to contact you. So I always recommend in your pitch decks and your presentations that you're always having that last 2 sets of slides, thank you or how to contact you. And since this really isn't going to be a pitch or pitch deck that we're using here, this one really is a technical document that you're going to be giving to different people internally within your business or outside of your company when it comes to marketing teams that are going to be promoting in your business. This is really a technical document, so you won't really need to have like a thank you slide, and you're not going to really pitch or present from this. This is a document that you actually submit, send, and email so that everyone knows how your brand should be represented on and offline. And that is pretty much it. So there are just a few slides that we're going to be working with here. And I think we'll start from the very beginning. And we're going to work our way between the time that this assignment is due to the very end. And we'll just tackle a little bit each week to get some of this stuff done as quickly as possible. It shouldn't take long because we've gathered all of the elements together that we need already. All right, everyone. So now that you know what template and theme we're going to use and what slides we're going to use from these templates and themes, that is it. So we'll just go ahead and start working on this together, making sure that you get all the different parts done, ready to submit, so your brand can be represented in a professionally designed brand style guide. Catch you in the next one.